The Fairfield Museum is located at 231 South Congress Street in Winnsboro, South Carolina. It is open to visitors Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. and again on Saturday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. When the war started in 1914, Americans wanted to stay out of it, but by early 1917 it became obvious that we could not. On April 2, 1917, Woodrow Wilson, the man who ran for re-election on the slogan, "He kept us out of war," asked Congress for a declaration of war. The government then had to persuade the American people to support the war. The Committee on Public Information was established to influence public opinion for just that purpose. Our involvement in the war was explained as fighting to make the world safe for democracy and repaying our debt to Lafayette. The committee used posters, newsprint, pamphlets, radio, and film to promote the patriotic messages. But music was an especially important means. Songs such as George M. Cohan's Over There and Goodbye Broadway, Hello France helped create support for the war and for our soldiers. Little books of patriotic songs called Sammies were given to our troops to entertain themselves and keep morale high. In addition to patriotic posters and magazines, the museum's exhibit includes several examples of sheet music, songbooks, and Edison blue amberol cylinders, the predecessors to vinyl records, with popular songs of that period. 6 weeks after declaring war, Congress passed the draft, and Fairfield men began reporting for duty in the many jobs required to fight a war. At the beginning of the draft, the Army assigned some African American men to combat roles, and 28 Fairfield men were sent to Camp Jackson to train with the 371st Infantry Regiment. However, the Army then decided to only assign African American men to support roles, and the majority of African American men who served in World War I, including the almost 600 from Fairfield County, performed the jobs that required manual labor. These men were the stevedores, road builders, pioneer infantry, labor battalions, and gravediggers. The African American men who had been trained for combat were seconded to the French Army to use as replacements. Our Fairfield men were trained in French tactics, given French weapons, wore the French Model 1915 Adrian helmet, and went to the line with a French regiment where they were welcomed as brothers in arms. The 371st served with distinction. The entire regiment was awarded the Croix de Guerre, or the Cross of War. 5 of these 28 men gave their lives to make the world safe for democracy. Almost 1,000 Fairfield residents, both drafted and enlisted, served in the Great War. They served as soldiers, sailors, and officers. Most were in the Army, but 52 served in the Navy, with 14 of those aboard ships, and another one who operated the radio on a subchaser. 4 more of these men served at the Naval Air Station Pauillac on the western shore of France. 30 young men, including 4 doctors and 4 dentists, served in a medical field during the war. 7 of those were in the ambulance service, and another 7 served in the chemical warfare service at Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland. The official purpose of the arsenal was the manufacture of gas masks and other related items of war. However, it is probable that some, if not all, of these men were involved with the testing of poisonous gas. One woman, Miss Nan Aileen Bryce, was a nurse during the war. She assisted in the treatment of those at Base Hospital 56 in eastern France. Most of the Fairfield residents who served in the war worked on farms. 31 worked on the railroad, 6 worked in the mills, and 4 in the quarry. 9 men who listed Fairfield as their home worked in the steel mills in Pennsylvania, where they most likely were engaged in the production of steel for military ships and ammunition. 36 sons of Fairfield were college students at the time they registered for the draft, with 13 of those attending Clemson. Most of these young men served their country in the Students' Army Training Corps unit at their college. 31 Fairfield residents died during the conflict, 19 of those from the Spanish flu in one of the worst pandemics to ever hit the world. 1 died from the effects of alcohol, and another from a possible suicide. At least 5 sons of Fairfield County found their final resting place in one of the 6 American Battle Monument cemeteries on French soil. Private Purdy Tucker's remains are interred at Arlington National Cemetery outside of Washington, D.C. As the museum volunteers were preparing this exhibit, one visited Private Tucker's grave and noticed a spelling error on the headstone. She notified Arlington National Cemetery, and they have since corrected the error. Every soldier who has ever gone off to war has probably told his mother the same thing. Don't worry about me. But those words could not stop the folks back home from wondering and worrying about their loved ones. While the soldiers were busy training for and performing their new duties, the loved ones back home had plenty of time to worry. There is really not much a government can do to help those who sit and wait other than to make them feel special, to acknowledge them, and to honor them for the sacrifice that they have made in sending their sons, husbands, brothers, and fathers off to war. In 1917, in order to honor his two sons who were serving in the Great War, Ohioan Robert L. Quasier designed what would become known as the service flag. A blue star on a field of white represented each soldier from a family. No one knows exactly how the practice started, but when a soldier made the ultimate sacrifice, their blue star was covered by a star of gold. The idea of the banner was spread through newspaper articles, sheet music, women's organizations, and churches. Soon, windows and doors in Fairfield County were draped with service banners honoring those serving their country in the Great War. In May of 1918, the Women's Committee of National Defenses recommended that instead of conventional mourning attire, American women should wear a black armband adorned with a gold star. Woodrow Wilson, who had grown up in Columbia, South Carolina, and remembered the women dressed in black to mourn their Civil War dead, agreed that there should be a better way to honor the dead, and he approved the suggestion. The term Gold Star Mother was born. In 1928, a group of mothers formed a national organization of American Gold Star Mothers. This organization realized that many of the Gold Star mothers could not afford a trip to Europe to visit their sons' graves, and they lobbied Congress to provide a federally sponsored pilgrimage. In March of 1929, Congress allocated funds for the Gold Star Mothers Pilgrimage. The program was specifically for the mothers of the deceased. Other family members could not go, and only in the case where the mother had died and the widow of a soldier had not remarried could a widow make the trip. The Quartermaster Corps was responsible for making the arrangements. The women were treated lavishly. Each one received an itinerary, a train ticket to New York, and a gold medal. When they boarded the ship, the captain greeted them and gave them another medal. Each group was accompanied by an officer, a physician, and a translator. Upon arrival in France, one woman in each group, usually the oldest, placed a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldiers. Then they made the trip to the battle monuments, where each woman was given flowers and as much time as she wanted to visit her son's grave. The women were then given a few days to view the sights in either London or Paris before making the return voyage home. Even in death, as it was in life, African American women traveled in segregated groups where they traveled on commercial steamers instead of luxury liners, and they stayed in lesser hotels. Of the 11,400 women deemed eligible for the trip, 3 were from Fairfield County. Mrs. Lavinia Gant, the mother of 2nd Lieutenant Joseph Skinner Gant, who died by accident; Mrs. Hannah Mark Taylor, the mother of Private Ulysses Taylor, who died of disease; and Mrs. Sophia Abel Alston, the mother of Private Boaz Alston, who was killed in action with the 371st Infantry Regiment. Only Mrs. Alston accepted the government's invitation. However, she died before she could make the trip. In total, some 6,654 women made the trip between 1930 and 1933. World War I was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Of course, it was not. A little over 20 years after the armistice was signed, war broke out again. Once again, America tried to stay out of it. Once again, we could not. Once again, Fairfield residents registered for the draft, and once again, Fairfield men told their mothers not to worry as they marched off to war. It is often said that those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The staff and volunteers of the Fairfield History Museum invite you to come out and spend some time examining the artifacts on display, the uniforms, the mess kits, the gas masks, and other items that the sons of Fairfield used during the Great War, and contemplate what we can learn from them. If you wish to contact the museum, you may reach us by telephone at 803-635-9810 1111 or via email fairfieldmus@truevista.net or fairfieldmus@fairfield.sc.gov. If you wish to contact the Genealogy Research Room, that email address is fairfieldgenealogy@truevista.net.